Incredible discovery. Police dog uncovers hidden truth behind little girl's midnight hunger crisis. In the heart of a quiet American suburb, a humble single mother named Sarah wrestled with her worries. Bills piled high on the kitchen counter, whispering threats of darkness if she couldn't pay them. She worked tirelessly at her part-time job, scrubbing dishes at the local diner, every dollar making a difference in feeding her adventurous daughter, Lily, whose laughter echoed through their tiny apartment with a glimmer of hope amidst their struggles. But when the evenings fell, the choice became gut-wrenching: groceries or keeping the lights on. It wasn't fair, but it was her reality. Unbeknownst to Sarah, 8-year-old Lily's insatiable curiosity and hunger for adventure drove her to sneak out into the night. The park, with its wide-open spaces and starlit sky, felt like a world waiting to explore. As she tiptoed through the grass, insects chorusing all around her, she didn't fully grasp the risks. Her heart raced with both fear and excitement as she chased moonbeams in the dark, whispering secrets to the wind. Meanwhile, Officer Mark, a steadfast figure in the community, was wrapping up his routine patrol when his loyal K-9 partner, Max, caught an unfamiliar scent in the crisp air. It was unusual for a child to be out at night. He followed the trail, leading them straight to a small figure shivering among the trees. The moment his flashlight illuminated Lily's wide eyes, his heart sank. "Hey there, little one. What are you doing out here?" he asked gently, kneeling down to meet her gaze, his voice warm like a cozy blanket. Fear flickered across her face. She probably didn't know how to answer. A few minutes later, they arrived at Sarah's doorstep, where a full-blown storm of emotions awaited. When Sarah opened the door, confusion turned into heart-splitting realization. "Lily!" she gasped, a tightness in her chest. Her little girl lost in the night, chasing dreams she hadn't yet learned how to catch. As Officer Mark explained the situation, misunderstandings danced in the air. Sarah felt exposed, her struggles laid bare before this compassionate officer, yet untrusting of the judgment lurking in his eyes. Officer Mark, wanting to extend a hand but feeling the weight of guidelines, wrestled with his duty as thoughts of compassion struggled against the barriers of preconceived notions. The unspoken words hung between them, a painful knot of vulnerability. Before their fraught exchange could deepen, buzzed whispers swelled within the community. The tight-knit neighborhood, which once offered support, now began to fracture at the seams. Judgments took shape, people whispered in coffee shops, the atmosphere thick with tension. As the stories spread like wildfire, the very fabric of their community shifted. In the eye of the storm stood Lily, undeterred. Hearing hushed talk about hunger evoked memories of her own. Inspired by her midnight escapades, she boldly declared a mission to assist other children in need of food drive. "Let us help them, Mommy. They shouldn't go hungry," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with naive hope. When they gathered for the town hall meeting, countless faces filled the seats, a tapestry of disbelief and compassion stitched together. As the residents discussed their fears and struggles, lingering questions loomed large. The deeper issues of class and judgment began to emerge in the tense air. Just when it seemed they could unite, a voice from the back interrupted, igniting a furious debate on who truly deserved help. Tension simmered, and all eyes turned to Sarah. The stakes had never been higher. Could she rise and be the voice of compassion, urging them to see Lily's unyielding spirit and flow of kindness? Or would the storm of doubt sweep through their community, pushing them further apart? The room held its breath, waiting for her answer. For a moment, silence enveloped the room like a heavy fog. All the eyes in the hall were locked onto Sarah. She felt like a deer caught in headlights, trapped between the weight of expectations and the need to articulate her truth. She stammered, her throat dry as she searched for the right words. The little faces of children, much like her own Lily, flashed before her mind. They, too, belonged to this community, and she felt an urgency to represent them. "Lily is right," Sarah finally spoke, her voice steadying. "Every kid deserves to eat." The room murmured with surprise, her honesty cutting through the tension. We're not just talking about hunger, we're talking about hope. If we teach our children love and empathy, if we don't let our struggles make us bitter, we can do something beautiful together. A ripple of emotion ran through the crowd. Some nodded, while others exchanged glances of uncertainty. A man with graying hair and a well-worn jacket stood up, his voice trembling. But how do we know they'll use the help? He questioned, a hint of frustration lacing his words. What if it just gets wasted? Sarah inhaled deeply, feeling her heart race. We can't let fear guide our actions, she implored. I've felt the hunger, and it's not just about food. It's about dignity. If we give children a chance, they can do extraordinary things. Look at Lily. She gestured toward her daughter, whose eyes brimmed with excitement, devoid of self-doubt. She saw a need and wanted to help. That speaks volumes. Kids shouldn't have to worry about where their next meal comes from, another woman chimed in from the back. Her voice was shaky, but her conviction was clear. I remember my childhood, and I had a family to help me. Not every child has that. Encouraged by the support, Sarah pressed on, feeling the movement shift in her favor. Let South start the food drive. Let us show our kids that we care. They should know there's a community that loves and supports them, regardless of our differences. Bursts of applause erupted, filling the hall with a palpable sense of hope. Officer Mark watched with admiration, feeling pride wash over him for the courage they were showcasing. But deep down, he knew this was just the beginning. As discussions turned into plans, excitement simmered in the air, the community inching closer to unity. Yet even as the atmosphere lifted, shadows remained. Murmurs of doubt, whispered criticisms, and silent judgments lingered like an unwelcome chill. Before everyone dispersed, a quiet voice piped up, voiced by a young teenager sitting at the edge. What if they don't come? His uncertainty struck a chord, reminding all present that change could be as daunting as it could be hopeful. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. We'll make them come, she vowed, fierce determination burning inside her. By showing them they are seen, and that their stories matter. As the meeting concluded, Sarah held Lily's hand, pride swelling in her chest. Yet deep within, uncertainty nipped at the edges of her confidence. Would they really come together? Could this food drive be a beacon of hope or just a band-aid on a festering wound? They stepped out into the cool night, the stars twinkling like distant dreams above. Sarah glanced around, apprehensive glances from neighbors meeting her at the door. It felt like they were on the edge of a breakthrough, but the distance between fear and hope still loomed large. What would it take to keep the momentum going? As the door clicked shut behind them, the weight of the world pressed on her shoulders, and the sound of uncertain whispers followed them home. But she knew they had to try. Would their small act of kindness spark a fire in the community, or would it extinguish under the weight of doubt? The question hung like a whisper in the night, urging them to move forward. The next morning broke with a promise that felt delicate, like a freshly bloomed flower coaxed from the ground by the sun. Sarah stood in her kitchen while the aroma of brewing coffee filled the air. She felt the weight of the day ahead settle upon her. Today was the day they would begin to make plans for the food drive. Lily was at the table, her drawing materials spread around like a colorful explosion. She was scribbling fiercely, eyes bright with imagination. Sarah smiled, seeing Lily's enthusiasm. What are you creating today, sweetie? Lily looked up, beaming. It's our poster for the food drive, Mom. I want everyone to see how important it is. She held up a drawing of happy faces, plates of food, and children playing together. That's beautiful, Sarah said, her heart swelling with pride. You capture hope so well. But behind her smile, worry festered like a gash that wouldn't heal. Would anyone care enough to see the smiles Lily envisioned? After breakfast, Sarah stepped outside, greeted by the crisp air of morning. She made her way to the community center, hoping to gather support, feeling her resolve strengthen with each step. Once inside, she found a small group already chatting, and she felt a spark ignite inside her. "Good morning, everyone. I know we just talked about the food drive, but I believe we can make it something amazing. We need volunteers, ideas, and most importantly, we need hearts willing to help." The group shifted, exchanging glances. Encouragement is often found in the unlikeliest corners. "Maggie. You're great with social media, could we use that to spread the word?" Sarah asked, making direct eye contact. "Absolutely. I can create a Facebook event, get the buzz going," Maggie replied, her eyes wide with interest. Contentment swelled in Sarah, and she continued sharing her ideas. But with each discussion, the specter of doubt wormed its way back in. Would this truly make a difference? Would they actually rally together? Hours slipped by, and plans began to take shape. The crowd grew larger, and by evening, several local families began getting involved, transforming the conference room into a hive of inspiration. Laughter mingled with serious talks. Each voice whispered a kind of potential that felt alive. After a long day, exhaustion thickened her limbs, but she felt hopeful as she walked back home with Lily. Just as they approached their front porch, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, Officer Mark, standing with his loyal police dog, Max. "Evening, ladies. I just wanted to drop by and see how the planning is going," he said, fatigue creeping into his smile. "We're making good progress," Sarah replied, her heart lightening at the sight of him. She saw him glance toward Lily. "Hey, little artist. What are you working on?" Mark knelt to be eye level with Lily as she proudly held up her poster. "Look at all the happy kids. We're gonna show everyone they're important," Lily exclaimed, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "That's the spirit," Mark said, chuckling. "How about we add some paw prints to your drawing? I think we could get Max in on the fun." Lily squealed, clapping her hands, and Mark produced a badge out of his pocket. "And how about some surprise goodies to help get the word out?" With a few treats shared between Max and Lily, the group felt a rush of camaraderie. But as the laughter faded and goodbyes lingered, Mark hesitated. "I've been hearing some things around town. People are still unsure of this drive. Some don't believe change is possible." A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. "It's frustrating to think after all this effort, we might face rejection." "Remember," Officer Mark offered gently, "every big change starts small. And sometimes, the biggest impact comes from unexpected places." As they stood there, contrasting emotions coursed through Sarah, fear and hope battling like lightning. Would their small act of kindness spark something contagious, or would it spiral into doubt and confusion? Sarah gazed into the night sky, stars twinkling, each one like a whisper of promise. Could Max help uncover the truths lurking hidden within their community? The thought sparked a new fire deep within her, urging her forward. What if we could not just show people they're important, but also help them understand it together, she wondered, a bold question flickering in the air. And with that, the night turned richer with possibilities, ready to bloom into more than she ever imagined. The sun rose the next day with a warmth that seemed almost buoyant. As Sarah poured herself a cup of coffee, she thought about yesterday's conversations at the community center. The buzz in the air felt different now, charged with a potential she had almost forgotten existed. She glanced at Lily, who was sprawled on the living room floor, still lost in her vibrant world of colors and shapes. "Hey, sweetie. Let us have a little chat," Sarah called, her heart alight with newfound hope. Lily looked up, her face smeared with blue and red crayon as she exclaimed, "Can we make more posters today, Mom? I want everyone in the whole town to see them." "Absolutely. But first, I thought we'd visit the library. We might create something even bigger if we get some more ideas." "Yay. Can we get donuts afterward?" Lily grinned, her eyes sparkling as she imagined sugary treats. The walk to the library felt different today, lighter, as though they were stepping into a community that might soon embrace their mission. Inside, the smell of old books mixed delightfully with the scent of fresh coffee from a corner cafe. As they browsed through books on community service and inspiration, a small gathering caught Sarah's eye. It was a group at one of the tables, discussing ways to improve their neighborhood. She approached, her heart racing. "Hi there. I'm Sarah, and this is my daughter, Lily. We're in the middle of planning a food drive, and we'd love any input you have." The group turned their attention towards them, and Sarah's pulse quickened. What if they turned her away? But instead, a woman with bright red hair smiled warmly. "What a wonderful idea. We're actually brainstorming ways to connect families in need with local resources. Maybe we could team up." Excitement bubbled in Sarah's chest as she exchanged ideas with the group. They shared similar stories, their hearts beating in sync with a shared goal. "We've seen families struggle, especially during this time of year," chimed in a man wearing a hoodie. "It's hard when people don't know where to turn." "Exactly. We want to make sure no one feels alone in this," Sarah replied, her voice fierce with conviction. "Lily, tell them about your poster." Lily, after shyly glancing up, launched into her enthusiastic explanation. "It'll have lots of happy faces. And everyone feel important." The adults exchanged glances, and there it was again, that spark of hope. They leaned in closer, their discussions turning to strategies, shared resources, and a willingness to collaborate. Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight lift. This was the connection she needed not just for the food drive, but for themselves. As they wrapped up, the red-haired woman offered her card. "Let us stay connected. It's about community, right?" Sarah nodded vigorously, her heart swelling. "Thank you. Today was inspiring." On their way home, Lily chattered non-stop about her vibrant plans, and Sarah's heart felt anew. If they could rally this support, imagine the possibilities. But just as triumph danced on the tip of her tongue, reminders flickered to life. What would they do if their efforts fell short? Later that evening, while preparing dinner, Sarah's phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was from Officer Mark. "I have something to discuss. Can we meet tomorrow?" Unease settled in her stomach like a stone as she read the text again. Why did it feel like foreboding was creeping in? After tucking Lily into bed, Sarah sat in the darkness, her thoughts twirling with worry. What could Mark possibly have to tell her? The glow of the moon reflected on her kitchen table, lighting the pages of her open notebook filled with plans and hopes. Was this moment of community gathering the beginning, or was it veering into something unknown? The ache of uncertainty snaked around her heart. As she pondered, she glanced at the drawings littered across the table, each representing the joy and purpose that fueled her. Could this sense of unity withstand any storm on the horizon? And then it hit her like a surge of adrenaline. What if, hidden behind Officer Mark's message, lay a discovery that could change everything for their community? Embracing that thought, Sarah sighed as she set her mind towards what tomorrow might bring. It wasn't just about the food drive anymore, it was about understanding the full circle of support needed to make real change. Would tomorrow's meeting hold the key to unlocking something much deeper? The next day dawned with a gray mist hanging low, a stark contrast to the buoyant warmth of yesterday. Sarah pulled her jacket tight as she stepped outside, the chill biting at her cheeks. Her heart raced, not just from the cold, but from the anticipation that tinged her every movement. Officer Mark's message replayed in her mind like an old record, each word carrying the weight of something unspoken, something lingering in the air, waiting to be uncovered. With each step towards the police station, Sarah tried to steady her thoughts. She recalled the hope they had ignited at the community center. The faces of those willing to come together stirred something deep within her, a sense of purpose that felt too precious to risk. Arriving at the station, she spotted Mark waiting at the entrance, his expression serious yet inviting. "Sarah," he said, motioning her to follow him inside. The hallway echoed softly underfoot, the atmosphere dense with unvoiced concerns. She felt the knot in her stomach tighten. Once inside his office, Sarah took a seat, trying to read his demeanor. "Thanks for meeting with me," she said, her voice pinched with nerves. "Of course. I think what you're doing for the community is fantastic," Mark replied, then paused, looking out the window as if seeking the right words. "Is everything okay?" she finally asked, anxiety creeping in. "Your message sounded urgent." Mark turned back, the weight of something heavy in his eyes. "There's been an increase in reports of families struggling, especially with food. We're doing what we can, but I received a tip about something much deeper. It's troubling." "What do you mean?" Sarah felt her breath catch. The weight of his seriousness seemed to crush her optimism. "There's a food pantry that hasn't been operating as it should. Also, a local supplier has been shorting deliveries to the community without any clear explanation. I think it's important we investigate it further," he explained, his voice steady but laced with an underlying tension. "Why hasn't anyone done something about it before?" Sarah's heart sank. It felt like a spark of hope had dimmed, replaced with dread. They were on the verge of something good, yet shadows lurked just beneath the surface. "Some people are afraid to speak up. But we need to expose this. Lily, your daughter, she's been calling for everyone to be important," Mark stressed, leaning closer. "This is a part of it." Sarah's mind slipped back to the joy on Lily's face, the promises they had made to share hope and uplift others. "We can't let this be the end," she whispered, her voice a mix of determination and pain. "We have to shine a light on this." Mark nodded, a flicker of encouragement in his eyes, as if sensing the resolve rising within her. "I'm going to reach out to the community organizations you've started it with. If we all band together, we can stop this." "Will they listen?" she asked, doubt creeping in. "They will." His certainty held a power that anchored her resolve. Sarah realized in that moment that the dream she held of unity and change might just stretch beyond her expectations. "But we need evidence. Something concrete to convince people this is real," he added, his brow furrowing in thought. "I have a lead on a delivery schedule and some key players involved. If we can piece this together." Her heart fluttered at the possibility. What if they uncovered something that could transform their community? What if they turned fear into resilience? "Let us do it," she said, her voice stronger than she expected. As they left the office, a sense of urgency propelled them forward. Thoughts raced as they planned their next steps, but anxiety threaded through her excitement. Could they handle the risk? Later that evening, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed, her daughter's gentle breathing soothed some of the turmoil inside her. "Tomorrow will be big, sweetheart," Sarah murmured, stroking Lily's hair. "What about the happy faces?" Lily whispered sleepily. "Those happy faces will find their way," Sarah promised, casting a hopeful glance back to the drawing spread across the table. The weight of the day settled in her chest once more. Sarah felt a restless energy flickering, but deep down, she knew something monumental lay on the horizon. Would they muster the courage to confront the truth, or would fear hold them captive? As she shut the door behind her, Sarah glanced at the moonlight spilling through the window, illuminating the world outside. The darkness loomed ever closer, but just beyond it, an unimaginable hope awaited. Would uncovering this truth strengthen their fight, or would it test their resolve in ways they couldn't foresee? The sun barely broke through the heavy clouds, casting the world in an eerie half-light. Sarah found herself sitting at her kitchen table, a cup of lukewarm coffee growing cold beside her. She stared at the scattered papers, her notes on community resources, the schedules Mark had shared, and sheets filled with Lily's childhood drawings. How could something so innocent be intertwined with such darkness? She couldn't shake the connection between the food pantry's mismanagement and the growing uncertainty in her neighborhood. With every glance at her daughter's drawings, which illustrated vibrant scenes of joy and laughter, Sarah felt the urge to protect that innocence grow stronger. Wasn't that what she was fighting for? The next morning, Sarah met Mark at the community center. It buzzed with the quiet activity of local volunteers organizing supplies. Each box labeled, each can closely inspected. These were the faces of hope she had seen so vividly the day before. But beneath that vibrant surface, the tension from last night clung to her thoughts like a heavy fog. "Did you sleep?" Mark asked, catching her pacing in the back corner. "Not much," she replied, feeling the weariness seep in. "I just kept thinking about the kids, about Lily. What if we're too late?" Mark stepped closer, his expression earnest. "We won TB. We're putting everything together today. We need to prepare for the town meeting. The community has to see that change is possible." As they began discussing their strategy, families started arriving one by one, bringing donations and camaraderie. Their presence reignited the spark that Sarah had felt prior. No longer just a mission, it became a movement. But when voices rose, the small gatherings turned into murmurs of confusion. "What do you mean we're out of rice again?" one volunteer exclaimed. The concern spread, and Sarah couldn't help but feel a knot twist in her stomach. Were they really going to face empty shelves when so many were depending on them? "We can't let them down," Sarah said, her voice steadying. "This is why we're here." Mark looked around, meeting eyes with everyone present. "Together, we're going to address this. We're going to ask hard questions and demand answers. No more silence." A determined energy washed over the room, washing away some of the unease that had settled in. The chatter grew louder, people discussing what they would say, how they would rally others. Just then, an older gentleman, Mr. Hudson, broke through the crowd. He was known for his sharp mind and fierce loyalty to the community. "If we're going to do this," he said, voice strong and clear, "we need facts. No one will believe a word of it unless we have proof." "Mark has some leads," Sarah replied, her voice catching slightly in her throat. "We can present what he has found." A volunteer chimed in. "What if we could take a secret look at the pantry? I've heard things." "What kind of things?" Mark challenged, his tone serious. "Just whispers," she hesitated, glancing around, "but people think there's more going on. You'll need an insider SI." In that moment, Sarah's pulse quickened. Could they really dig deeper, risking more in search of the truth? The collective fear and resilience mingled, setting a powerful atmosphere. With determination fueling her, Sarah called out, "Let us split into groups. Some of us can go check the pantry today. Others can prepare for the meeting. If something's off, we'll uncover it together. This is about us, all of us." Her words ignited a fire in the crowd. People nodded, murmurs of agreement rippling through the room. Soon, plans were solidified. The burden of their fight felt a little lighter, shared among those who risked standing in the light to reveal the darkness. As they gathered supplies, Sarah felt a sense of purpose pulse through her. She took a deep breath, ready to embark on this journey. But the deeper they dug, would they expose the truth they were seeking, or would they awaken something more terrifying? Leaving the center, Sarah turned to Mark, uncertainty flickering across her brow. "What if we find something we're not prepared to handle?" "We'll face it together," he assured her. "No matter what lies ahead." But the lurking question remained, echoing in her mind. Just how far were they willing to go? The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that crept along the quiet streets of the neighborhood. Sarah's heart raced as she and Mark drove toward the food pantry, uncertainty gnawing at her. They parked a block away, the weight of their task pressing down like the thick clouds overhead. "We stick to the plan," Mark said, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of urgency. "Gather any evidence we can. Make sure to document everything." Sarah nodded, but her throat was tight. What if they uncovered something so terrible it shattered the fragile hope their community had built? They approached the pantry, its faded sign flapping in the breeze. It looked ordinary enough, but Sarah knew that appearances could be deceiving. As they entered, the smell of canned goods and dusty shelves filled the air, but a dim light cast an uneasy glow. The pantry was more than just a place, it was a lifeline for many, including families who had fallen on hard times. A few volunteers were sorting items near the back, unaware of Sarah and Mark's secret mission. Sarah's heart sank as she caught sight of empty shelves where essential items should have been stored. It was worse than she imagined. "Let us check the storage room," Mark whispered, motioning toward a slightly ajar door at the end of the aisle. They crept forward, their footsteps muffled by the worn linoleum floor. As they stepped inside, a chill ran down Sarah's spine. The storage room was dark and cluttered, filled with boxes stacked almost to the ceiling. Mark flicked on a flashlight, its beam slicing through the gloom. "Look at this," he said, shining the light on a box marked emergency supplies. It was barely touched. "Why hasn't this been distributed?" Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. What if they're hoarding these? What kind of game are they playing? Mark inspected the boxes. "Here's something. Look at the expiration dates." He pulled out a can and pointed to the label. "Some of these are expired by a year." Anger bubbled within Sarah, mingling with despair. They took pictures of the forgotten supplies, documenting the neglect that felt criminal. Just as she turned away, her foot kicked something hard, an inconspicuous lockbox hidden beneath a pile of old newspapers. "What is that?" Mark asked, kneeling to investigate. Sarah's breath hitched as they pried it open. Inside, they found a collection of documents, requisitions for supplies, invoices for deliveries, but with alarming discrepancies. Disturbingly inflated numbers claimed far more food was received than what was ever on the shelves. Why would they lie? Sarah whispered, incredulity sweeping over her. "This isn't just mismanagement. It's theft." Mark's eyes widened, realization dawning. "We have to show this to the community. People need to know the truth." But before they could react further, a sudden noise echoed from outside the storage room. Heart pounding, Sarah exchanged nervous glances with Mark. They couldn't get caught here. The panic of potentially being discovered layered with their determination surged. "Quick! Let us get out of here," Mark said, and they carefully backed away, clutching the lockbox. They slipped out of the pantry just as a group of volunteers entered, laughing and chatting. Sarah's pulse raced, each beat echoing the urgency of their discovery. Once outside, pressing the box against her chest, she couldn't shake the mix of fear and excitement. "This could change everything," she said, her voice trembling. "But at what cost?" Mark murmured, glancing back at the building. "What kind of repercussions are we opening ourselves up to?" Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. "We do this for the community. For the children. For Lily. We're in this together." As they walked back toward the community center, a chill wind swept through the air, a foreboding reminder of the mountain they had begun to climb. And with each step, the weight of their secret felt heavier. But what they didn't know was that someone was watching, lurking in the shadows, and they wouldn't stop until Sarah and Mark paid a price for their truth. The community center loomed ahead, its familiar facade now feeling like a fortress of secrets. Sarah's hands tightened around the lockbox as they approached, her mind swirling with thoughts of what they had just uncovered. Time seemed to stretch, each second pulling them deeper into uncertainty. "Do you think we should talk to someone first?" Mark asked, glancing down the street as if he expected someone to leap out at them. "Maybe we should make copies of the documents before we bring them public." "I think we have to show it to everyone, the sooner, the better," Sarah responded, her voice steady but hoarse. There was a fire burning in her chest, a desire to act before fear could stifle them. "We can't let this fester. Lily's counting on us." Mark sighed, face drawn with concern. "Okay, but what if they turn against us? What if they decide it's better to silence us?" Sarah paused, her heart beating loudly in her chest. She had thought of that too. The consequences loomed like a shadow over them, darkening their mission. If we don't do anything, then what's the point? We owe it to the people that rely on this place. He nodded slowly, eyeing her with a mix of admiration and despair. You're right. Let us just be careful. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with activity. Families were arriving for the evening meal, laughter and chatter filling the space. The warmth that usually surrounded Sarah felt different now, tainted by the knowledge they carried. They stepped into the meeting room, glancing around at familiar faces. Marianne, the community coordinator, stood talking passionately about upcoming events. Spotting Sarah and Mark, she waved them over, blissfully unaware of the urgency gripping them. There you are. I'm so glad you're here. We need your input about the fundraiser. We need to talk to you now, Sarah interrupted, her voice almost unsteady. Unease settled into Marianne's eyes. Is everything okay? It's about the food pantry, Mark said, his voice low, just above a whisper. We found something troubling. Marianne paled, glancing at the door as if sensing the weight of their discovery. What do you mean? Can we talk privately? Sarah urged, her pulse quickening. Within moments, they were in an empty back room, and Sarah placed the lockbox on the table. The femtech gleam of it felt ominous, heavy with secrets. She took a deep breath before opening it, the documents inside suddenly seeming like a Pandora's box. We discovered discrepancies, huge gaps in what's claimed versus what's actually there. This isn't just disorganization, it looks like theft. We need to let the community know what's happening. Marianne's hand flew to her mouth. Shock rippled across her expression, her eyes darting from the documents to Mark and Sarah. It's unbelievable. Beat by beat, they explained their findings, the words tumbling out in a flood of urgency. Marianne listened, her face a mosaic of emotions: anger, disbelief, and an underlying fear. When they finished, a heavy silence filled the room. There's no easy way to say this, Marianne finally whispered, her voice trembling. I've suspected something was off for a while, but I didn't have proof. We have to act fast. We can't let this go on any longer, Mark insisted. As they began to strategize, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The air crackled with tension, and she felt a chill run up her spine. Suddenly, the door burst open, nearly slamming against the wall. A man stood there, his face obscured by the shadows. What are you doing here? You weren't supposed to be in this area. It was Gary, the head volunteer, and his tone was sharp, his eyes calculating and cold. Sarah's heart raced as she met Mark's gaze, fear tightening around them like a noose. We were just discussing the fundraiser, Sarah stammered, but even she could hear the trembling in her voice. Gary's gaze narrowed, suspicion radiating from him like heat. You need to leave. Now. Sarah felt the weight of the lockbox pressing down harder, an anchor pulling them into the depths of potential ruin. What secret? Was Gary hiding? What lengths would he go to keep this under wraps? As they hurried out, the reality of their situation set in. This was just the beginning. And the stakes were higher than they ever imagined. With every step outside, the wind howled, a chilling reminder that danger lurked just around the corner. What would happen next? Would they find allies, or were they stepping into a trap? The night held many secrets, and Sarah could only hope they had the courage to face them all. The night air was electric as Sarah and Mark stepped outside, their minds racing. They hurried down the street, hands still trembling from the confrontation with Gary. The lockbox felt heavier with every step they took, a weight that went beyond its physical form. It was a symbol of their fight, their responsibility, and potentially their downfall. I can't believe Gary just kicked us out like that, Mark muttered, casting a wary glance over his shoulder. What if he tells someone? What if he just goes ahead and hides everything? Sarah shook her head, trying to dispel her own fears. We need to stay ahead of this. If he's hiding something, we need to expose it. But we have to be smart about it. We can't attract more attention to ourselves just yet. They walked in determined silence, each step echoing with the urgency of their mission. Sarah's mind raced through the documents they had seen in the lockbox, the numbers that didn't add up, the food that was missing. It didn't just affect the community center, it was the lifeline for families who struggled daily. Do you think Marianne will take this to the council? Mark asked, breaking the silence, worry etching lines on his forehead. I hope so, Sarah replied, trying to inject a note of optimism into her voice. But we'll have to keep an eye on her. If Gary's involved, we can't trust anyone blindly. They rounded the corner toward Marcus Park, the small community space where children often played, and families gathered during grill nights. The comforting sights of their neighbors enjoying life felt distant now. Sarah caught sight of little Lily sitting on a swing, her legs kicking back and forth. The innocent joy in her eyes stood in stark contrast to the grave concerns swirling in Sarah's gut. Mark followed her gaze. We can't let anything happen to this place, or to kids like Lily, he murmured. Maybe we can rally some support, talk to some of the other families. It's a start, Sarah agreed. But we have to tread lightly. If we blow the whistle too soon, we may put them in danger. We need to collect evidence, not just suspicions. As they formulated their plan, the hairs on the back of Sarah's neck began to prickle. She glanced around, scanning the park as if afraid of what she might find. They were not alone. Just beyond the trees, a figure loomed, watching them with an unnerving stillness. Sarah's heart raced. Was it just paranoia, or was their secret under threat? Mark, do you see that? She whispered, pointing subtly toward the shadows. He squinted into the darkness, and his expression hardened. Yeah, we should go. Now. They turned away from the park, quickening their pace down the sidewalk. But the feeling of being followed clung to them like a dark cloud. As they reached the end of the block, Mark's phone buzzed in his pocket. He fished it out and frowned. It's Marianne. She wants to meet again, but at a different place. I think she may have found someone to help. A flicker of hope lit Sarah's heart. Then we need to get there fast, she urged. Whatever she has, it could change everything. The sense of urgency propelled them forward. They couldn't afford to slow down now, not when they were on the brink of unearthing something big. Thoughts of betrayal and danger swirled around them, but so did determination. As they turned down a quieter street, Sarah took a deep breath, hoping against hope that they could uncover the truth without losing their community in the process. Mark, she said, voice low but firm. What if we're not just digging into corruption? What if we're revealing something much more sinister? Mark looked at her, eyes wide, and for a moment they shared a bond of understanding, a shared fear that they might be in over their heads. Whatever it is, we can't stop now, he replied. Not when lives are at stake. Their next step was laden with uncertainty. How deep did the corruption run? Were they truly safe, or had they stepped into a labyrinth of threats from which there was no escape? The shadows lengthened around them, but Sarah felt the pulse of hope alongside the fear. Was it foolish to believe they could make a difference, or just the kind of courage necessary to start a storm of change? With urgency driving them forward, they disappeared into the dark, unaware of the dangers that waited just beyond the next corner. As they reached the meeting spot, the question loomed larger than ever: was this the turning point, or merely the calm before an even greater storm? The dingy diner where Marianne had chosen to meet was alive with the sounds of clinking dishes and muffled conversations. Thick leather booths lined the space, but Sarah felt they were walking into a trap rather than a safe haven. The air smelled of fried food, but it did little to mask the anxiety swirling in her stomach. Are you sure she knows the stakes? Mark whispered as they entered. The old clock above the counter ticked loudly, each tick echoing Sarah's racing heart. Let us find out, Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Spotting Marianne at a corner booth, she felt a rush of mixed emotions, relief and worry intertwined. Marianne's face lit up upon seeing them, but then instantly shadowed with concern. "Thank goodness you're here. I got your message about Gary. Did he say anything more?" Mark asked, anxiously sliding into the booth across from her. "Just hinted that he knew you both were snooping. He has been acting strange, and I can't shake the feeling he is covering something up," she explained, glancing around as if checking for spies. "We need to be cautious. I've been in touch with a few community leaders, and they want to take action, but we need proof. Your evidence is crucial." Sarah nodded, her determination fortified. "We have the documents from the lockbox. We have to get them into the right hands quickly." Marianne leaned forward. "What if we organize a community gathering, something that can raise awareness and help us build momentum? But we must ensure everyone feels safe speaking up. If Gary's involved, we know he won't go down without a fight." Suddenly, the door swung open, a gust of chilly air following behind. Sarah turned her head, seeing the figure of a tall man step in. It was Gary. The tension in the diner thickened, and she felt her breath hitch. Every instinct screamed to flee, but she remained glued to her seat. "Why is everyone huddled here?" he called out a little too loudly, eyes narrowing as he spotted the trio. Marianne stiffened, her demeanor shifting as if the weight of his presence could crush their plans in an instant. "Just discussing the food drive," she replied, forcing nonchalance into her voice. "You know how important it is for reaching families in need." Gary approached their booth, invading their space. "You three seem awfully chummy to be discussing what the community really needs. I'd be careful with those conversations." His glare was piercing, and Sarah's heart raced, a terrible realization coloring her thoughts. This was more than a simple mismanagement, it was deeper, a mutual trap they had stumbled into. "We're just trying to help," Marianne asserted, glaring back. "Help?" he scoffed, lowering his voice. "You think stirring the pot is helping anyone? You'll just cause more trouble than it's worth." The silence was thick, the tension palpable. Mark's hand twitched, as if ready to intervene. But Sarah knew better. They needed to keep their plans under wraps longer. Gary leaned in, a threatening smirk curling at his lips as he caught Sarah's worried expression. "Maybe you should reconsider who you're trusting." As he strode away, Sarah felt adrenaline pulse through her veins. "What do we do now?" she whispered, fear pulsing in her chest. Marianne's voice was steady. "We continue with the plan, but make sure we're smart about it. The community gathering must happen soon before he can derail everything." As they crafted their plan, Sarah realized that fear had become part of the narrative, a force clinging to the fabric of their hopes. But she could feel a flicker of defiance rise in her. The battle ahead was daunting, but giving up was no option. That evening, they laid out their ideas. A community gathering could ignite change. It wouldn't just be about the food drive anymore, it would fuel a movement. Pushing back against oppression, against fear. "Let us make it bigger than anything Gary can comprehend," Sarah urged, her voice a sudden surge of strength. "Let us show them that our unity is untouchable." As they finalized their plans, the sense of urgency morphed into determination. It was time to reclaim their community, to unravel the darkness lurking within. But just as they were about to leave the diner, Sarah felt her phone buzz, a message from Lily. A simple drawing of a smiling sun and happy faces. "We're important," it read. In that moment, the weight of purpose fell over Sarah like a warm embrace. They would rise above the shadows. They had to. For Lily and all the children who deserved a better tomorrow. On that note, they left the diner, hearts full of courage, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The gathering was set for the weekend, and the whole community would come together under the glow of lights, amidst the weight of uncertainty, but also hope. They didn't know where the path would lead them or what kind of storm they were sailing into. But one thing was clear: they would confront darkness, together. And as Sarah tucked Lily into bed that night, she whispered, "We're doing this for you, sweetheart." The future glimmered in her mind, a future where no child went hungry, where kindness defeated greed. As sleep enveloped Lily, Sarah stood by, breathing it all in. It was a turning point. They would shine brighter than all the shadows combined. As the community gathered together, the time had come to expose the truth hidden in the dark corners of their lives. Would they rise, stronger and united, or would the storm pull them apart? With the groundwork laid, every heartbeat became too significant to ignore. This was where change began, from courage fueled by love, and a deep belief that indeed, they would find a way. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and foster these vital messages. Comment your reactions and feelings about the impactful ending. Share your journey with us. And take a moment to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share, because only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions of camaraderie.